For more, we can speak to our foreign editor, Kethevane Gorjestani. Hello to you, Kethevane. Just as we look at the way sort of Russia's been communicating here and what we've heard from the Kremlin, what more do we know about Russia's actual involvement in the war?
Well, look, what we know is from those U.S. media outlets who are reporting that the Russian intelligence, basically, according to those reports, really focused on the location of potential military targets, warships, aircrafts, command and control infrastructure, radar systems, but also location of personnel, both civilian and military personnel. What we don't know is the extent of that intelligence and its use by the Iranians. Did the Russians tell the Iranians or sort of guide the Iranians as to which targets they should strike? And did Iran actually use any of that Russian intelligence in the attacks that they have carried out so far? Those are answers that we don't have right now. The other thing that's interesting is the White House's response to all of that. When they were questioned about these reports, do you confirm, do you deny? They didn't deny it. They didn't confirm it either completely, but what they did was sort of try to minimize the impact that Russian intelligence would have in Iran if it were to be true. The White House saying Iran is getting crushed anyway. That's not making a difference. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he a couple of days ago said that Russia as well as China were not really a factor in this war. But just yesterday, he said that the president knows who's talking to whom. Donald Trump clearly does not want to talk about it. Yesterday, in an event that had nothing to do with Iran, he was questioned by a Fox News reporter about these reports, and he dismissed the question, saying it had no place at this event. The day before, he was also at an unrelated event with a soccer team, Inter Miami FC, and there he was very happy to be discussing the Iran war. So it seems that they don't really want to get into how much that could be of benefit to the Iranian. What it is clear is that it's not a huge surprise that Russia would be helping Iran, because those two countries have been cooperating for years, if not decades. And especially just recently, of course, Iran has been quite a bit of help to the Russians in their war on Ukraine, especially when it comes to drone technology. The other issue is that, yes, Russian intelligence may not be as great as U.S. intelligence or as Israeli intelligence. It is still one of the best intelligence in the world. And finally, Russia might have quite a bit of benefit to gain in helping Iran. One is to show that despite recent experience with Bashar al-Assad in Syria, with Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, Russia is still willing and able to help its partners when they are not doing great. So trying to help Iran. Two other things. One is rising oil prices. That could be of benefit for Russia because, of course, we know that they use oil revenue to finance their war effort in Ukraine. And finally, a major crisis in the Middle East. That's enough to distract the United States and even Europe from the other war, of course, the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, isn't it, how various governments try to get the upper hand and control the narrative, especially with things like AI footage. We saw Tehran using AI footage in the immediate aftermath of those U.S. and Israeli strikes. Right now, the White House facing criticism for its messaging over the war. Social media trolling and memes were already a hallmark of Donald Trump's presidency, but a new post has sparked even more controversy. Amron Maxwell takes a look.
It begins with a clip from video game Call of Duty, before mixing in real footage of US missile strikes on Iran, while plus 100 points flashes up with each kill. Just one of the latest offerings on official White House social media pages, which have become a stream of memes and videos designed to appeal to Donald Trump's base and enrage his opponents. But this one hit particularly wide of the mark. Accused of being cavalier, lacking in taste, morally abhorrent, exposing the US administration's apparent gamification of war, while real people, including Americans, died.
Without
It's an attitude also embodied by US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in press conferences.
This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be.
Over the past week, the macho war rhetoric and videos have multiplied, with montages of Hollywood film clips from Gladiator to Top Gun.
Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh.
As the Trump administration tries to sell a war, from the once non-interventionist president to a MAGA base showing signs of bemusement.
Our focus should be on the U.S. and not abroad, certainly not there.
As a Republican, I'm as well against it for the simple fact that it doesn't seem they have a plan.
As the White House's erratic messaging veers from confused to bombastic, polls show around 1 in 3 Americans approve of its strikes on Iran.
Flawless victory.
Kethevane, what do you make all of this and the shifting U.S. narrative?
Well, it's not just how they communicate, it's also the content of the messaging and an ever-shifting narrative about this war, the reasons for the war. Nuclear program in Iran, ballistic program, helping the Iranian people, regime change, all of this has happened over the past few days. The war itself, is it a war? Is it a military campaign? How long will it last? 4 weeks, according to the president, 8 weeks, according to the Secretary of Defense, 100 days, according to military leadership. But really, where the narrative keeps changing the most is what comes next in Iran. What would be a successful outcome, according to the United States? Donald Trump, initially, when the strikes first happened, he told the Iranian people, now it's going to be up to you to rise up and take over your government. But then he changed a little bit his tone. He said that he wanted to find a sort of Delcy Rodriguez, pointing to the vice president in Venezuela who replaced Nicolas Maduro. He said that he wanted someone possibly within the regime, but he also admitted that most of the names they probably had killed in these strikes. He also said he must be involved in finding a replacement for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but he also said that the new leadership had to treat the U.S. and Israel well, and it didn't matter if it was a religious leader and not a democratically elected leader. That's probably not exactly what the Iranian opposition and the Iranian people want, but when we talk about who is acceptable to the United States, even that is not clear in the messaging from the White House and from the Trump administration. What does that look like? Is it someone within the regime? Is it a reformist? Or is it someone completely outside of the regime, possibly like the son of the former Shah of Iran? What this is creating is confusion, and you saw that coming from Democratic senators who were briefed earlier this week. Some of the comments coming out of these briefings: complete incoherence, constantly shifting narratives, so much worse than we thought. And it's not just the Democrats, even some Republicans, not criticizing the idea of going to war or why Donald Trump is doing this, but criticizing the messaging. Representative Corey Mills, big supporter of Trump, big supporter of the war, he said some messaging on this would help.
How do American voters see this ahead of the midterm elections in November?
Well, look, if you take a look at the recent polls, a majority of Americans, no matter what poll you look at, are not supportive of this war. Some point to 27% of support, just 27%. The maximum support is the latest CNN poll, around 40% supporting this war. Obviously, we're talking about a split down party lines. In that CNN poll, 77% of Republicans are supportive of the war in Iran, but only a third of independents and 18% of Democrats. But two things make this possibly problematic for the Trump administration. One is that it's the first time a modern-day president enters a war without public support. Traditionally, presidents start with support for the war, public support for the war, and then over time that support starts waning. That's not the case here. He's starting with a majority of Americans opposed to this war effort. The second thing is that, yes, right now Republicans as a whole are supportive, but there is a wing of the MAGA movement, of the Make America Great movement, that is not so happy with this war because it's not what they signed up for, if you will, when Donald Trump was campaigning with being the president who would end all these forever wars, who would not put the U.S. back into a forever war in the Middle East. And what they're seeing right now is exactly the opposite. And Trump hasn't done much to convince the American people otherwise. He hasn't done what previous presidents have done, which is do a very formal, big speech or a big press conference to explain to the American people what he's trying to do. And this is the lack of clarity that we were just talking about. People don't exactly know what's coming next. And all of this could get worse with one big element for the American people: the price of gas at the pump. Over the last week, a 10% increase in the price of gas in the United States. Donald Trump said about those gas prices, if they rise, they rise. I'm not sure that the Republicans who are up for re-election in this midterm year are going to be too happy about that part. If those prices keep rising, it's going to start being a problem. And we heard it in the report. Some Republicans are a little bit weary about what is happening. They're willing possibly to give this a chance. But if it drags on, this might become a problem for Donald Trump and for the Republicans.
All right, Kethevane, thank you very much. Kethevane Gorjestani, our international affairs editor.